All right, folks, welcome to my YouTube channel. I got Steve with us today, and we're gonna just find out exactly, basically jump right into it from beginning to end. He has some experience, quite a bit of experience, I assume, as a fire marshal, and this video will be to help people learn about what a fire marshal actually does, what it involves, how he became a fire marshal. With that, welcome, Steve. How's it going today?
Doing well. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Sounds good. So you're retired as a fire marshal, is that correct?
Yeah, I got promoted. I was supervising fire marshal.
Okay. So let's start from the beginning. As your whole public service servant, whatever they call it, service or servant?
Yeah. Well, we're public servants, as you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Either
not
one,
anymore.
either one
Now
would be
we're free
correct.
citizens, but
So from talking to you previously, basically you started off as a New York City police officer.
yeah, I
So how does
started
that,
there.
yeah, how does that come to be? Just run me through that.
Well, I always had the bug to be a cop when I was younger, and I kind of went back and forth with different careers, but finally I waited for the test to come out, and 1998 was a pretty good year. Giuliani was the mayor. The economy was doing well. He had a lot of funding. So they gave a test. What they did was they gave a test in May of '98, and about 6 days later, 7 days later, I get a message on my answering machine to show you dated. Back then, I don't think I even had a cell phone. I had a
Right.
beeper, and I get a message from someone saying, please call this number. You took the NYPD test. We want to call you down to begin the processing. So immediately when I heard that, it was a Friday night. By the time I heard the message, it was 7, 8 o'clock at night. Nobody's there. So I started calling my friends. I'm like, which one of you clowns left a message on there to play games with me? Because you know how it was. You were 6 days later. It's unheard of.
Right, right.
They haven't even sent that stuff to be graded yet, let alone calling people. And so I wound up. I took the test in May of '98. We started the process in 2 weeks later. By the time I went in, and I was hired in the end of August. And we were an anomaly in the sense that they put a class in July of '98, and then they put us in about 7 weeks later. And there was three classes that we didn't do the school that taught, which was 5 day, Monday to we didn't do Monday to Friday, weekends off. We
Mhm.
did the school to chart, so we were actually in the academy, 5 on, 2 off, 5 on, 3 off,
Mhm.
and we rotated from days and nights. So
And
we were in the academy for the 12s.
how long was the academy?
It was 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a long time.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on today, but I know there was 6 month academy, 8 month academies. I don't know, they varied it for whatever reasons, how they,
Yeah, they jump back and forth. It's the same thing with
yeah.
the fire department.
So now you were a police officer in which precinct?
I was in the 120. I got
Okay.
assigned there right out of the academy, and then I spent 3 years on the NYPD.
Okay. And then now after that you became,
I went to the fire department. I became a firefighter first. You went through the fire academy, and actually my first response on the fire department was 9/11 because
wow.
we had just finished the academy. Well, we finished majority of the academy that Saturday. We had family day.
Hmm.
We were supposed to go out for field training for 14 weeks, go back to the academy in December of 2001 for 3 weeks, and then graduate. But because of 9/11, all the plans got altered. And
Wow. That's crazy timing. But I got to ask you one thing just to go back a little bit. What happens that from the police department that you decided to become a firefighter? I know it was a popular thing to do back then. I'm not sure what's going on today, but what made you make that choice?
well, I almost didn't take the job. I wanted to be a cop, and everybody was. So I was always taught take all the tests so you have options.
Right.
The fire department test, I applied for it. I said, you know what? If they send me to Manhattan to take the test, I'm not going. So we wound up getting, they sent me to New Dorp High School in Staten Island.
Hmm.
And then I said, well, if I'm going to the night or if I'm working that day, I'm not taking off in the academy. There's no way I'm going in there and asking that lieutenant for a day off.
Hmm.
So I said, but I wound up, it was on the day off and it was the daytime. So everything was lining up.
Right, right.
And I took the test. I scored really well. I was in, the top of the group, and I was kind of going back and forth. But everybody that was on that job, the people that had time were like, "What are you crazy, kid? Get out of here. Go take the job. It's a better job." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I know it's a better agency, but I'm more interested in this type of work. I wanted to get promoted. I had aspirations of being a lieutenant
Hmm.
and detective, and then rising up to lieutenant. And I listened to the advice, and it was actually pretty sound advice. And
Yeah.
I went to the fire department, and I never looked back.
Now, so now we're up to the fire department thing here. Now, 9/11. What you do for 9/11 as far as like what did they, what they have you doing? Being that you didn't graduate from the fire academy yet, right? Basically, or
Yeah, we didn't graduate, so we
yeah.
finished Family Day that Saturday. That Monday and Tuesday, we had training
Hmm.
for EMS training,
Hmm.
because the union, to get us, there was a differential, like a little called Certified First Responder differential. To get that, we had to complete 2 of the 5 days of training. So we were going to training that Monday and Tuesday, and then that Wednesday, ironically, so the week before we were in hazmat training,
Hmm.
and we had a Chief Fanning, who passed away in 9/11, but he brought in a captain from OEM, and he came in to address us, and he said, on September 12th, you're going to go to a drill with the police rookies. If there's a terrorist attack in New York, how to mobilize the citizenry. And I remember somebody asked a question, maybe to the effect of what's going on or something. I don't recall exactly what they asked.
Hmm.
However, he said, we're getting some chatter, of something going on. So we just want to be prepared. We can use the citizenry to help us in a mass casualty event. And that was supposed to be September 12th. So had 9/11 hit one more day later, there would have been a lot more firefighters there, because a whole class of firefighters probably would have died,
So wait, now
and police rookies.
this is extremely interesting to me. Now you're telling me that maybe I heard this wrong, that they told you that you were going to have training on September 12th because they heard chatter about some possible terroristic.
Yeah, they weren't. He didn't elaborate. He didn't go into it. I'm not stating. I'm not a conspiracy theorist on 9/11 or anything.
Right,
But
right.
what I surmised was they were probably getting intel that Al Qaeda or other terrorist groups were planning something. They just didn't know what, when, where.
Huh.
So they wanted to be prepared. So they were starting to do some drills and stuff. That's what I took from it.
So you were scheduled for training on September 12th, and the attack happened the day before on September
The
11th.
day before,
Wow, that's mind-blowing to me. I had no
yeah.
idea I was going to hear this kind of information. That's really very
I
interesting.
saved it for you, so you get the element of
Yeah,
surprise.
but I mean, that's a factual. You're making a factual statement of, I mean, it's something. They must have knew something. That's pretty amazing. So
Something was
now,
going on.
yeah. So what happened? So now, so just run me through the day, basically, of September 11th. Were you actually, what were you doing? I mean, were you working? Were you home?
I
Or
was home. I was supposed
okay,
to go to
you were.
medical training on the
Hmm.
4 to 12. I was getting ready. My carpool was going to pick me up probably at 2 o'clock or so,
Hmm.
1:30, because we had to go all the way up to Fort Town, Queens. And I
Hmm.
lived on at the time, I lived on the South Shore of Staten Island.
Hmm.
So I got up, I don't know, maybe 8:30.
Hmm.
I was making breakfast. I was going to go to the gym, come back, and
Hmm.
get ready to go to work. So I turned on the TV, the old black and white TV in the kitchen.
Hmm. You still had that, yeah?
I still, yeah, I think it was like a 13-inch, could have been black and white or color. I don't remember.
Right.
Those little small,
Hmm.
old console TVs.
Hmm.
And I turned it on, and the news was on about the fire. And I said, I didn't read, that TV was so small, you couldn't see captions, and I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. So I turned it up, and they said a plane crashed into there. Now I'm thinking back to, I'm a history buff. I'm thinking back to World War II, when the plane accidentally, it was foggy, it hit,
Right.
the Empire State
Empire
Building. I'm like,
State,
it's
yeah.
not foggy. I said, oh man, maybe a plane went out of control. You're thinking it's an accident, one plane.
Of course.
So I went downstairs to grab stuff, came back up, and now I see the second tower on fire. And I said, wait a second. And then, you kind of knew something was going on. So we really didn't know what to do. But I remember from being in the NYPD days, a mobilization,
Hmm.
you were supposed to go, we called it a total recall. Mobilization, you were supposed to go to your nearest precinct. So I said, oh, I probably have to go to my nearest firehouse. While I was contemplating, I'm going to get in my car. Where's the gear? I had training gear. And one of the guys from the carpool pulled up. he was like, "Could you believe this?" I said, "No." He's like, "Come on, get in. We'll go to, 162 engine, which was my home engine."
Hmm.
So we went from there, and then we got bounced to 160, which was the division. So we did the equivalent back then of the 122. We had the borough.
Hmm.
Back then, there was no borough chief of Staten Island. It was only division.
Hmm.
So we went to 160 Rescue 5. And then from there, they shipped us to the ferry. And then we kind of languished at the ferry till about maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night. We were supposed to, it's a little morbid, but they were going to use the ferry as like a moored kind of
Hmm.
transporting bodies back. And
Hmm.
we were going to assist with the offload in a sense. And that never transpired.
Never happened. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we were there till about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Then we got sent to another firehouse. We were there for about an hour. Then they sent us to Manhattan to actually assist with the digging overnight.
Now, are you officially a member of the? I mean, you didn't graduate a fire department academy yet, right?
No, I never graduated the academy.
So when you're doing these tasks, did they equip you with radios and gear like I mean, or
I had training gear. There was really no radios. It wasn't as the police department for different faults, especially back then. They knew where you were. Remember when you went in a detail?
hmm.
They knew like Dave's at 20th and third, Steve's at 20th and fourth, Mike's at 20th and fifth.
Right.
They didn't have that kind of accountability in a fire. They weren't used to that kind of scale. You went to a fire scene, everybody was congregated in one spot. They knew that the engine company was outside, this ladder company was inside, but they never had like people on post and things like that. So they kind of teamed me up with a more senior member of the department. But it was just a hurry up and wait. There's really nothing going on. When we went to dig, we really were just there on that bucket line.
Hmm.
That everybody, if you were around then, you saw on TV when you were there, where
Yeah.
you were just, moving the bucket from one guy to
Yeah.
another.
Pass it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that's very interesting. So now, eventually, you graduate the fire department academy, right? That what they call it, I guess.
Yeah, they just graduated us. I was on the task force for a couple weeks. So I was in my 14-week, they called it 14-week house, which was basically field training.
Hmm.
I was there. I was all the way in South Jamaica, Queens. And I was there till we actually graduated November 1st. I remember the date.
Okay.
They called us up a few days before and said, they need you in the field. So we didn't go back for the other 3 weeks. We just graduated. And then we got assigned. They got assigned to Staten Island.
You were okay, and so now after all the 9/11 stuff, is kind of in the past. How long were you on the fire department before you became a fire marshal?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was in the firehouse, and firehouse is great. The camaraderie, the guys and girls in the firehouse. It's
Mhm.
it's a great experience, a great job. But I wanted to get promoted. I had aspirations to move up, and just the material just wasn't. I wasn't interested in it, and I did my job, but the fire marshal test came up, and I took it, and I got promoted back there in 2009.
Do you have anything you want to share with us as far as the firefighter end of it goes? Anything interesting throughout the 8 years that stands out in your mind as being a crazy job or an interesting job?
A couple. One was that we were at, they say sometimes, oh, you're in a slow engine and whatever, but didn't
Right.
anything happen anywhere. And so I was in there. It was right before I was transferring from one firehouse to another at Staten Island. And we're in there. All of a sudden, you start feeling the floor spun. I'm like, oh man. So it happened so quick. The floor collapsed, but I was able to grab onto a beam on the wall, and that
Wow.
kind of stopped me. So I was young then. I was maybe 29.
Was this like a house fire? What kind of a fire was it?
House fire, yeah, house fire in the South Shore of Staten Island. It was in like the Woodrow area. I don't remember the street,
Right,
and
right.
it
And
went down, and another guy, two guys fell through the floor, and then I just remembered it. You fall back to your level of training, and I remember lying down, spreading yourself out, and we kind of me and another guy were able to grab this guy. He wasn't that big of a guy. We were able to grab him up because he fell into the basement.
wow. Yeah, that's like I said, when the shit hits the fan, it really does
Does
the
yeah.
fire department, you know. You go from like having a good time with the camaraderie, cooking a meal, next thing you know, you're on a floor collapsing beneath you. It's pretty crazy the jobs that we did. So now the fire marshal test comes out, or did you get wind of like, hey, I want to be a fire marshal, or like how did you even know
I
about the
was
fire
waiting for it
marshals?
to come out. The
Mm-hmm.
test came out in 2008, so I prepared. It wasn't an in-depth, but there was a study guide,
Mm-hmm.
and I took the test, and I wound up scoring the top, and I got promoted with the first group in 2009 to the
So,
fire.
so what happens now? Now you officially become a fire marshal. You
Now
leave.
you're a sworn police officer.
Oh, so what happens now? I'm sorry.
You
You.
become a sworn police officer.
So
The
back to
court
a police
marshals in New
officer
York City
again.
are sworn police officers.
So you go from police department to fire department back to a police department.
Basically, I left the NYPD to go to the fire department to basically do law enforcement again.
But the fire marshals are not part of NYPD.
No, no, they're separate entities. So you got the better of both worlds. I mean,
Hmm.
the fire marshals, again, for all its shortcomings and stuff, it would still be a locked up gig on the NYPD. You
Okay.
would need to know a chief to get in there.
So now run us through what a fire marshal basically does and how you get called to the scene or why you would get called to the scene. Just run us through that basically.
You're there for origin and cause of a fire.
Hmm.
Meaning, say there's a fire at 1950 Clove Road.
Hmm.
The fire department goes, they respond, they put it out. I mean, it's a whole criteria, but I'll just give a broad overview.
Hmm.
And you get called, and now you're going to get a job ticket. So you and your partner come in. You and I are partners,
Hmm.
and you come in. We're each going to pretty much get a job ticket for the most
Hmm.
part. And
Hmm.
I may get 1950 Clove Road. You may get somewhere else in Brooklyn somewhere. Just say,
Hmm.
and you go to the scene. We're there to determine the origin and cause. So the fire marshals are the only ones in New York City that could determine a fire to be arson. They call it incendiary,
Hmm.
means intentionally set,
Hmm.
and then uh, and the penal law statute is arson. So you're not deeming it arson, you're deeming it incendiary, intentionally set, and then one of the crime classifications is arson. So if you deem it arson, then we go through the whole investigative process. If it's an accident, then you deem it, say it was electrical, an extension cord caught fire and ignited the rug, which ignited the contents in the room. Then you just do your paperwork and that's it. There's nothing to investigate
So
anymore.
basically, though, just to get back, you're in an office like when there's no call for the fire marshals, are you just hanging out waiting for a phone call to come in the office, basically, or?
Yeah, you're in the office. You're always going to get a job ticket. There's always a ticket. It's not like you're waiting on a radio.
Hmm.
Not like your sector Adam. And
Right, right.
you may get one call that day. You may get seven, but they're always going to be, for the most part, there's always going to be a job ticket. Or you can be, maybe there's nothing initially. They call it the deck. Maybe there was nothing on there. But 2 hours later, we had automatic response times. So some jobs, say some fires, say for example, just your basic routine, fire that was in a kitchen or something.
Hmm.
That'll get a job ticket and it'll go on the deck, they call it. Other things warranted an immediate response, a second alarm, firefighter injury, civilian injury, a civilian gets burned or something like that. Then you're going to do what's called a rapid response. You're going to go right away.
So this is a 24/7 operation for the
Yeah,
fire marshals. That's the
yeah.
first thing. And are you telling me you go to every fire, or or do they request the fire marshals only when somebody else determines it to be suspicious?
Well, the chief can, if he deems it suspicious, a battalion chief or a deputy chief, they can call the over the radio or
So you don't go to every fire, though.
not. There's certain ones we don't go to, but we do get a job ticket for a lot of them. We don't rapidly respond to all of them. There was
Hmm.
a whole criteria like second alarm or injuries that would warrant a quicker response versus if it was just somebody messed up cooking food on the stove, we called it. Somebody put a pizza box too close to an oven and it ignited, which ignited other contents. Then we would get a job ticket. We may not be able to get there right away because we're a small bureau.
Hmm. And
There's
then
only
so you would go there, and so they're waiting for you to officially determine that the fire uh, wasn't suspicious, basically.
well, they don't stay there. They don't always hold the scene. Firefighters will put out the kitchen fire, and they call it take up. And what's 98 on the police department was 10-8 for us. And
Hmm.
then they would go back to the firehouse or drill or wherever they were going. Sometimes, if it was a big fire or conditions warranted, we would ask them to hold the scene for for the continuity
Mhm.
of the scene. Because once you lose the scene, you can't get back in.
So now once you get to the scene of a fire that's been extinguished, basically, like what is your first, what do you do like from as soon as you get there? Do you start looking for like where, how do you determine where the fire was initiated or
Well,
started?
first you're going to make calls. So say there
Okay.
was a fire, 1950 Clove Road, and you'll get on there. It'll say kitchen fire, but there'll be callbacks on there, whether people called 911 or there was a call at home that called 911.
Mm,
So you're going to call up and try to just get a preliminary. You ask them what's going on. You call the firehouse and you talk to the firefighters there or the fire officer, the boss, to
okay.
get an idea because they're the best eyes and ears. They were there. And they'll
Hmm.
say, oh, yeah, the fire was in the right front corner or something like that. So you have more of an idea of the room, what they saw. And then you go there and you just do your own physical examination. So you
Now,
go there.
if the fire is suspicious, what do you do then? Like you have to collect evidence and like what would that be like?
Possibly, it depends if there's evidence to collect.
Right.
Possibly if you believe that somebody poured an ignitable liquid, say gasoline or something, on the floor and ignited it that way.
Hmm.
Then maybe you'd cut a piece of the floor, or you take a piece of the rug. Other things, if you found another piece of, we really don't find firearms and things like that, but it's more like fire debris. So
And
it depends on the scene. Sometimes you don't have any evidence to bring back.
and what do you do with the piece of the rug or the floor that you cut? How do you
We'll put it in a metal can. We'll cut it out carefully.
hmm
We'll put it in a paint can, basically. It's
hmm
not sophisticated. And then
hmm
we use the NYPD lab. We don't have our own lab facilities.
hmm
We would actually transport it for the most part. Sometimes you could bring it back to the base, but for the most part, you transport it to the lab, and then it gets analyzed there. This way, it's continuity of evidence. So I had it; it's a chain of custody, and then the
and
NYPD had it, so they know nobody tampered with it.
what about the what's with the metal cans? Why do you put it in a metal can? Or what goes in the metal can? What wouldn't go in a metal can? I mean,
The metal can would go like you say, you cut a piece of the floor.
hmm
The reason it is because you may have vapors in there. So when you close it, it'll actually trap the vapors in there.
Have you been to any interesting jobs that stand out with the fire marshal? Like anything that well, how long were you a fire marshal for? First of all, is also that
And the rank of fire marshal, I was 10 years.
wow, okay, 10
And then
years.
I went to supervise and I spent 5 years as a boss. But I did my job, not that I really did much, was the Times Square bombing.
Okay.
We didn't actively investigate anything like that. We were there as information gatherers to go back and report, to send through the chain of command. But we didn't play any active role. But
So the Times Square bombing that you went to, you didn't have to take any action. You just called there because sometimes you just call in, they call everybody in just so they said they called everybody in.
yeah, that type of thing, you're gonna go there. A lot of times, like the fire marshals were at the Sully, the Miracle on Hudson. We
Oh,
go to a
okay.
lot of these big events. We're more of an information uh, gatherer to send to the chief fire marshal who briefs the fire commissioner.
Hmm.
This way they have an idea of what's going on. Sometimes we're not necessarily there to take an active investigative role.
Hmm.
Could be supportive in some cases, but with the Times Square bombing is something we really had no role in it.
Right, right. And as a fire marshal supervisor, what did that involve? Do you have like a certain amount of guys under you? Do you don't have to collect any of the evidence the other guys collected, or
No, you're like a squad, I guess like a sergeant, lieutenant.
okay.
Basically, you run a squad. So you would have, like, say you had B2. So I would have squad 3-6, say, in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
And I would have, depends how many guys. There's not that many guys in a squad. The girls, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
It depends. When a class comes out, you have more. But when I got promoted, I spent a very short time in the field because the director of training spot popped up, and I was college professor and everything like that. So I was ideal for the spot. So when I actually got offered that spot, it was so quick that I thought the old chief fire marshal, I was getting called down to headquarters to get yelled at. But in reality, I was getting called, for an offering to be the director of training. And
Wow.
that was a great position. I spent about 5 years in that position.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Did you go to any jobs where there was, like I said, DOA or anything?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And like, is
yeah.
that, I mean, how different is that? I mean, you still have to just go there and is there any conflict when you go there with the detective squad invading it?
Well,
Or,
if it's deemed a homicide, the NYPD is the lead investigative unit.
right, right.
If it's an accidental fire, then they basically play no role.
Hmm.
If it's deemed, then you'll get, they call them 45, 1045, which is civilian injury or death or something like that. And, so there could be multiple. But if it's deemed a homicide, then we deem the fire incendiary, meaning intentional. So that, and then from there, they could charge homicide. But the NYPD is the lead. They have the more resource. They have countless more people. We're a bureau of possibly 150 people at times. They have 34,000 members,
Yeah.
and they know their their precincts better. So, for example, the base, there's only two catching bases that actually catch uh, cases in the whole city of New York.
Hmm.
Whereas you go to 7-7 precinct or something like that, it could be a square mile or something like that. The 7-3 is all projects. It's housing projects. They're like a square mile. They know their people, and they also know their perps, their criminals better than us.
Right.
So they have the resources far more than us anyway to investigate it.
So, and something like that, you would just be responsible for, like, are you the people who officially say this is arson?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we're the only entity that could deem a
can say
fire
that, and then you
to
would
be
collect any,
incendiary. Yeah.
right, and then you would collect any evidence to prove that case that it's arson, right?
Yeah,
And then,
with the homicide, it gets a little tricky because sometimes the NYPD, if they've already got it, if they already know it's a homicide and we arrive, sometimes they may want to hold it, not go in the scene to get a warrant to protect, uh, to go back in to protect the evidence because they don't want to contaminate the case. Other times we could still get in there because we still have control of the scene and we're still in an emergency situation. So.
right, but you would have to go there because they don't have the equipment to take the evidence,
No, and they
right.
can't deem a fire incendiary to charge arson
Mhm.
because they don't have that. That's not their area of expertise. And the administrative code, the Bureau of Fire Investigation is the only entity that can deem a fire incendiary.
Mhm. All right, that's very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. So, I think we learned a lot of things tonight. It's been a great conversation. It's been very enlightening. I was very interested to do this interview to see what exactly the fire marshals do, and hopefully other people find it interesting as well. And like I said, I just want to thank you for your time and all the information you've given to me and other people.
No, it's great. Thanks for having me.
All
I like
right,
it.
all right, Steve. Be well. All's
You
good.
too.
All
Take
right.
care.